Good morning, party people, and welcome to my 6th recording of the 3rd installation of ACT Science Prep during AI time. As always, my name is Bix, and I'm so happy to have you here today. Unfortunately, my face is not on here because the video would not render while it was, so I apologize for the ghost voice. Welcome to spooky season, I guess. Just a reminder, in order to access our activity for today, you can click the link down in the description for our Jamboard, or you can click the link to the folders of ACT materials on our channel's page right there on the banner. Click on the science folder, and then today's date is September 13th. If you would click on that Word document where the link to make a copy of the Jamboard exists, click that link and make your copy so that you can write all over it. If you need some extra time to get those documents up and running, please pause this video until you are ready to go. In this week's video, we will be learning how to identify words that we don't know. This is a skill that you use in everyday life, but sometimes when we use it with science words, we get a little bit freaked out. Context clues are a super important part of reading, and the ACT science passages are just reading in a scientific context. Before we get into our activity for today, I want to remind you of the 3 main rules for the science section. Rule number 1, read the questions first. That way you can identify some of those key terms that we'll be looking for in the passage. Number 2, do not read the passages right away. That's just a connection to rule number 1. And rule number 3, skip to the passage types that you know and love. We spent the last 2 weeks talking about all those different types, and by now you probably know which ones you vibe with and which ones you don't. Today, we will only be working with my favorite, of course, the dueling scientist, but there are only 2 scientists to read through, so you are in luck. The last thing I want to remind you about is the quit method. Remember, rule number 1, questions first. Number 2, underline important phrases. Today, those will be the words that we don't know. Next, identify groups. We worked on that last week. Group those questions. And T, take it 1 question at a time. This should be your strategy for all ACT questions, but remember, science has the privilege of being the very last section that you work on, and this is more important than ever. The next thing I need you to do is navigate over to your Jamboard. If you see here, I made my very own copy so that I can write on it. Make sure that you have your own copy so that you can write on yours. As always, you have the option of writing with any of the utensils of your choice here. You can use your finger, you can use a stylus, does not matter, whatever you're most comfortable with. I'm going to choose the pen and green because, of course, green is the science color. I am going to leave you to read passage number 1 and underline words that you don't know. The timers are making my video too long, so I will not be including them today. But go ahead and pause this video and come back as soon as you are ready to talk about the words that you don't know yet. Great job, guys. You can see on the screen the words that I underlined that I didn't know or maybe didn't make sense to me. On the next slide, you will see a list of those words. If there were some that you didn't see or didn't underline, that's okay. These are all of the nonsense words in that passage. Last year, I had one of my students write a short little paragraph about what a crazy morning would look like. I took out some of her words and replaced them with nonsense words to see if you can figure out what she was talking about. Now that you've underlined those words, I want you to try to use your context clues to figure out what they could mean. Give yourself 2 or 3 minutes. Again, I will not insert a timer, but go ahead and pause this video until you're ready to figure out what those words mean. Well done, friends. Go ahead and move to slide number 3, which has the answers. While I'm talking to you about the answers, I am going to go back to slide number 1, but feel free to leave your slide 3 open. Number 1 is alarm clock. Her alarm clock didn't go off and she woke up late. You could have also said phone alarm or just alarm. Any of those words indicate that the thing that wakes you up did not go off, which means that you understood the context. Number 2 is toast. She mentions that she put something in the toaster, and what happens when you put something in the toaster? It gets toasted. That was my context for number 2. And number 3, she wrote bagel. However, you could use any toastable breakfast product like Pop-Tarts or toaster strudels or a piece of bread. As long as you understood that you are toasting some sort of breakfast item, you understood the context. Good job. Number 4 and number 5 are connected. Her mom's something got locked in something else. Now, when you are running late and you accidentally lock something in something else, typically it's your keys, number 4, in your car, number 5. Keys in her house also could have been a fine assumption, but either way, number 4 has to be keys, because if it got locked in, that means that we don't have the resources to get them out, and keys are what unlock things. Number 6 is late. All of this is happening. None of the right sequence of things is happening here in the morning, so they are going to be late for school. But they finally got on their way and they were not late for first period. She was so relieved until she found out that they had my student wrote quiz in class that day. However, you could have said test or presentation or speech or some other very high stakes thing that they had to complete. Then she thought what could be next and remembered that she left her, in this case, she meant lunchbox, and she was still hungry. Now, if you said breakfast, like the bagel that she had toasted earlier, or other food item, you got it right, because she was still hungry and she left the solution to that problem at her house. When will this day end? She's really been through it this morning, guys, and she just wants to know when it is all going to stop. You ever have one of those days where you're like, oh, could anything else happen? I definitely have. I know you probably have too. So you get the context of this. Now, we are going to move on to something a little bit more advanced. This is an earth science passage from the 2018 June ACT, I believe. And it is a dueling scientist passage, which means that you have scientist 1 and scientist 2. Of course, you are going to read the questions first, and then you can come back and underline any words that you don't know. I'm going to leave you to it. The rest of this AI time is yours to finish underlining these words, and you can go back and answer the questions on the PDF. I have been instructed to only upload the answers after today, so you can see those starting after AI time on Monday the 13th to see if you got the answers right and why those answers are correct. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a fabulous Monday, Owls, and we will see you next week for the 4th installment of Science ACT Prep. See you later.